I get a Facebook message from a friend I met in Seoul 4 years ago. Rowena is one of the new Australian entrepreneurs doing business with China. She invites me to a 50th birthday party on a farm near Carradale. I make myself useful, taking some photos with my prime lens for the family, but end up piking early, tired from my early morning's bush camping. The rain set in, so Rowena invites me to stay at her place on a couch in Bustleton. I ride towards a rainbow and realise it keeps staying ahead of me. A good omen, perhaps. Rowena runs an import business, acting as an agent between Australian business and Chinese manufacturers. The week I was staying, she was getting samples of AstroTurf for a local builder. She also sells her own product, a kid's toy called a Kitten, a rainbow unicorn kitten with butterfly wings. She takes me for a bit of a tour of the region, checking out some local wineries, local food producers, and exclusive beachside enclaves like Eagle Bay. I can see why people like this region. Beautiful forests and beaches, the whole southwest corner, a lush green playground. I'm still toying with the idea of getting back into surfing, so I meet with a local shaper to reacquaint myself with board design. Bill Van Vliet shapes for a hobby, saying the local surfing industry has been decimated by cheap Chinese imports. I find this fascinating and ask him to explain. He tells me of a business on the Gold Coast that imports boards directly from China and charges anything from $350 to $550 for a shortboard. His material costs alone to make a board are at least $290, and then it takes him about a week to shape and glass. He charges around $550 to $600 for a board, so is essentially only making around $250 for a week's work. He told me the industry standard price for a locally shaped board is around $850, pretty much double that of a Chinese import. The main local shaper on the coast recently closed shop and moved in with the main glasser. Bill informed me it's fairly rare now for him to see a guy in the water with a local shaper's logo. In June 2015, the Abbott government signed a free trade agreement with China. This agreement was 10 years in the making. The process started back in 2005 by the Howard government. China is Australia's largest export market for both goods and services, accounting for nearly a third of total exports. But there are some concerns about the opening up of investment and labour. Chinese investors in projects valued over $150 million will receive additional rights to bring temporary migrant workers in without having to do local labour market testing. And a clause was added that will allow Chinese corporations to sue the Australian government if the government introduces laws or regulations that damage the profits or future profits of Chinese companies. But the biggest concern in the present moment is a recent bid by a Chinese-led consortium on Australia's biggest private landholding and the world's largest cattle station. The Australian government blocked the bid, concerned it wasn't in the national interest to have foreign ownership of an area covering 100,000 square kilometres. To understand the size of this area, keep in mind England is only 130,000 square kilometres. But the Chinese are offering $370 million for the property. The nearest Australian-led offer, by trucking magnate Lindsay Fox, is $100 million less. With the average age of an Australian farmer being 52, you can understand why many are taking the big money and retiring early. As a town, Margaret River didn't really impress me. It's not like Noosa or Lorne with a beautiful beach forest setting. It's a small inland town on a dirty brown river, 10 kilometres from the coast. Someone from Albany told me that the reason it has such a tourism marketing buzz is because the wealthy of Perth have put a lot of money into its surrounds. I don't know how true this is, but when I visit a local art gallery and check out the prices of some of the furniture, I realise the region definitely has some people with a bit of coin. I met one of the artists, Evelyn, a classically trained German jeweller, skilled in the centuries-old tradition of lamp-fired bohemian glass bead making. She found my forthright opinion about some of the art pieces amusing and taught me that the best way to appreciate art you don't understand is to just say, this piece really speaks for itself. She found my journey interesting and we talked for a while, carrying on our conversation into the bar next door. I end up getting an invite for dinner, meet her daughter, and learn more about how she ended up in Australia. She told me she likes Australia, because it has less of a class system than Germany, a lot more wide open spaces, and much less competition in business. She asks me why I'm not in a relationship, and I tell her I don't want to lose my freedom. She says what could be more freeing than opening your heart to love. She has found a unique niche, selling jewellery to Australia's wealthy elite, using quality materials such as precious glass imported from Germany, 24 karat gold leaf, and fine South Sea pearls. I think of my own struggle on the strip, adjusting from big government contracts to dealing with small business. I think of a workmate I met in the 90s who painted part-time. He put his paintings in local cafes trying to sell them for anything between $150 to $300. He didn't sell one. He worked out how much he would need to earn in paintings if he was to quit his day job and concentrate entirely on his art. He decided to hold his first exhibition and adjusted his prices to reflect his new career choices. The $150 paintings were now listed as $1,500. The $300 paintings listed as $3,000. Some he even increased to $8,000. His first exhibition was a huge success. He sold everything. The paintings that had previously sat collecting dust in cafes now adorn the walls of the well-heeled along the beachfront avenues of the Sunshine Coast. The story makes me think about the exorbitant prices we are getting from the Chinese for our real estate, our produce and our farms. Are we missing the point of what we really have to offer? Wide open spaces and a clean, unpolluted environment? A cash windfall for one generation is all good and well, but as the Chinese say themselves, if you want 1 year of prosperity, grow grain. If you want 10 years, grow trees. If you want 100 years of prosperity, grow people.